As the final shots of World War II faded, the victorious Allies inherited a problem of staggering scale: the immense, scattered arsenal of the German military. The most imposing of these spoils were the thousands of panzer, tanks, formidable machines that now sat derelict across the ruins of Europe. The sheer logistical nightmare was immediate. Storing, maintaining, or destroying them all was unfeasible. The solution was found not in demolition, but in strategic redistribution. With the world swiftly polarizing into Cold War blocs, and tensions flaring in newly decolonized regions, captured German armor offered a cost-effective, readily available means to arm allies or clients. The technical challenges of conversion. Repurposing these German-designed vehicles was a complex engineering feat. Fuel and gauge conversion. German tanks ran on specialized, high-octane German aviation gasoline or ersatz synthetic fuel, which was scarce post-war. Engineers often had to completely swap or modify fuel systems to run on standard petrol or diesel, a significant undertaking. Additionally, all internal gauges and placards had to be converted from German to English, French, or metric standards. The Panzer IV in the desert, the ubiquitous Panzer IV, built in massive numbers, became the staple of this trade. Syria, in particular, operated a significant fleet. French companies contracted to refurbish them, often replaced the German Kaugui 40 main gun barrels with more common Soviet bloc weaponry to ensure sustainable ammunition supply. This hybrid approach created unique, multinational fighting vehicles. The impact of this armor was immediate and devastating in the Middle East. 1956 Suez Crisis. Egyptian forces utilized refurbished Panzer IVs against British and French troops, demonstrating that the 1943 design was still a relevant factor on the modern battlefield. Second Six-Day War. The conflict featured the bizarre spectacle of German-designed vehicles engaging one another. Israel utilized captured Sturmgeschütz, third assault guns, a highly effective self-propelled gun design, while facing Syrian-operated Panther IVs, showcasing a chilling echo of WWII engineering, 1990s Balkan Wars. The deepest echo of this legacy manifested decades later. Stocks of German tanks and armored vehicles held by the former Yugoslavia were reactivated during the brutal civil wars, proving that the material longevity of the Wehrmacht surpassed the political systems that created and defeated it. The Skyborne legacy, from Luftwaffe supremacy to global jet design. High above, the captured aircraft of the Luftwaffe presented not just a logistical problem, but an incredible technological windfall. Aircraft like the Messerschmitt, Mi-262 jet fighter, and the Arado R-234 jet bomber represented a leap in aviation technology that the Allies had only just begun to counter. The race for air superiority blueprints. The Allies launched systematic efforts to secure these technological secrets, often shipping the entire airframes across oceans for intensive study in reverse engineering programs. U.S. adaptation, Operation Lusty. The U.S. shipped dozens of valuable prototypes and test aircraft to North America, where they were meticulously analyzed at places like Wright Field. The insights gained directly influenced the development of the first-generation American jet fighters, including the swept-wing designs that were a hallmark of German aeronautical thinking. Soviet acceleration. Soviet efforts were focused and aggressive. The study of the Junkers Jumo 04 and BMW 03. Turbojet engines, the first mass-produced jet engines, was instrumental in overcoming early Soviet design hurdles. This German technology provided the foundation necessary to rapidly develop iconic Soviet fighters like the MiG-15, which would dramatically challenge U.S. air superiority during the Korean War. The aircraft that weren't immediately broken down for study often found second lives. Bf-109s and FW-190s became staple attractions at American air shows, transforming instruments of terror into pieces of dramatic history, flown by civilian warbird enthusiasts. Crucially, countries like Spain continued licensed production of the Bf-109, renamed the Hispano-Aviación HA-1112, well into the 1960s, keeping a fundamental W-2 design technologically relevant for decades. The hidden tide, naval vessels and maritime technology. While tanks and planes dominated the narrative, the German Navy, Kriegsmarine, contributed its own unique set of spoils, most notably the advanced U-boat technology. The Type 21 U-boat, the revolutionary Type 21 submarine, the first true submersible, rather than a submersible torpedo boat, was a prize catch. Featuring advanced battery capacity, a streamlined hull, and the schnorkel breathing apparatus, it was the progenitor of virtually all modern post-war submarine design. Global influence. The US, USSR, France, and Britain each seized and studied Type 21 boats. The Soviet Union integrated the design principles into its post-war Zulu-class submarines, while the US adapted the high-speed, streamlined hull for its own Guppy conversion programs, fundamentally accelerating the Cold War's naval arms race by over a decade. The ubiquitous echo, small arms and the modern battlefield. The millions of small arms left behind created the most pervasive, long-term impact on global conflict. Unlike tanks, which required extensive maintenance, rifles and submachine guns were rugged and easily transported. The sheer quantity of the Mauser 98K rifle ensured its continued use in conflicts across Asia and the Middle East for over 3 decades. Early Israeli defense forces relied heavily on captured 98Ks, often adapting the barrels to fit standard Western ammunition calibers. The legacy of the assault rifle. The most profound, quiet revolution came from the Sturmgewehr 44, StG 44. This weapon, pioneering the intermediate cartridge concept, combined the firepower of a machine gun with the portability of a rifle. Direct design influence. Soviet small arms engineers, particularly Mikhail Kalashnikov, meticulously studied the StG-44. The design principles, including the use of stamped metal parts, the long-stroke gas piston system, and the intermediate caliber cartridge, directly contributed to the conceptual birth of the AK-47. The AK-47 is, therefore, the indirect spiritual and technical successor of the Nazi Sturmgewehr. Enduring presence, the StG-44 itself, due to its exceptional build quality and the vast quantities captured by the Soviet Union, has resurfaced in recent conflicts, notably in the hands of various insurgent and rebel groups across Africa and the Middle East, underscoring the weapon's enduring and deadly service life. The contaminated genius, scientists, and the Cold War space race. The final, most ethically challenging spoils of war were the German scientists and engineers who designed these advanced weapons. Allied intelligence recognized that the human capital was more valuable than the hardware. Operation Paperclip US. This controversial, secret program successfully recruited over 1,600 German experts, often quietly erasing their wartime affiliations. Chief among them was Wernher von Braun, the architect of the V-2 rocket program. His transfer directly provided the foundation for the U.S. ballistic missile arsenal and ultimately the Apollo program that put Americans on the moon. Operation Osavia Kim, Soviet Union. The Soviets, with equal ruthlessness, forcibly relocated thousands of German scientists and technicians deep into Russia. These experts became vital, though involuntary, contributors to the Soviet missile, jet, and nuclear programs, providing the initial expertise needed to rapidly close the technological gap with the West. The ethical compromises inherent in these programs remain a complex legacy. The Allies faced a stark choice: compromise moral standards by employing figures who served a genocidal regime, or risk losing a decisive technological advantage to their new Cold War rivals. The choice they made ensured the Nazi wartime research did not end in 1945, but instead accelerated and profoundly shaped the global technological, military, and even spacefaring strategy for the next half-century. The weapons and ideas of the Wehrmacht never truly disappeared. They simply changed flags, calibers, and continents, continuing to influence conflict and innovation to the present day.